Hello, students. Let's begin our lesson. Teaching English taught in elementary grades. B38 a Group 6.
Hello everyone, a pleasant day. I'm Irina Saro from the Group 6. Today, I and my groupmate Umbahin will be discussing the silent way approach in language learning. But before our discussion, let's engage some activity. This game titled Complete Me. All you need to do is to look for the missing letter so that you can complete it. Am I understood? Please raise your hand if you clearly understand my instructions. Okay, that's good, everyone. So let's start. I will give you enough time to answer it. Okay, time's up, everyone. So now let's do the checking in our activity. The first one we have approach. Very good. The second, that will be silent. And the third is way. Very good, my dear students. And the fourth one is student. And the fifth one, and that will be the last, is teacher. Very good, my dear students. I can clearly see that you're so active today in our participation. Keep it up, section 8A. This activity brings us to our topic that will be the silent way approach, my dear students. So, my dear students, we will start with what is silent way method. So this unconventional method was developed alongside of back in the year of 1970s by the mathematician Taleb Gattagno. It was upon ideas outlined to one of his books, The Teaching Foreign Languages in Schools, The Silent Way. That was published in the year of 1963. So most controlled event in the year of 60 to 70, teaching method come very rigid and stricted. So the best method underlined with this method is simple and but potentially quiet, powerful in contrast to the traditional method, that it will be emphasized on the students' learning rather than the teacher's teaching. So it is not uncommon for the teachers to remain silent for the whole part of the lesson. So in simpler terms, my dear student, this is a method where the teacher says very little during lessons, giving students the space to discover language on their own. So here it focuses on guiding learners to think critically using the tool like color-coded charts and questionnaire rods to help them learn. So, in the essence, the teacher will be dominating the lesson, so the students will active growth to possess to the learning throughout. So the teacher will be direct and correct. The silent way is a teaching method where the teacher talks very little and allows the student to discover and learn their own. So the goal here is to help the students become independent and learn problem-solving skills. Instead of the teacher explaining everything, they use tools like full rods or called questionnaire rods and charts to guide the students to figure out the answer to themselves. Okay, so to further understand, I will give situation. For an instance, imagine a teacher giving students some colorful blocks, questionnaire rods, and showing them a chart with different words. So the teacher doesn't explain much, but encourages the students to match the rods with the words. So as a students work together to solve the puzzle, they start to understand the meaning of the words on their own without the teacher giving the direct answer. So this way, they learn through discovery, not by listening to long explanations to the teacher. We need the silent way because it helps the students become more independent learners. Instead of always depending on the teacher to give them answers, students figure things on their own by trying, making mistakes, and fixing them. They understand the language better. This approach makes learning stronger and more meaningful because students are actively involved and learning by doing, not just by listening. So a teacher is helping students learn colors in English instead of saying, this is red, this is blue. So the teacher gives the students colored blocks that will be a Cuisenaire rods and points to a chart with colorful names. So the teacher stays silent, allowing the students to match the blocks with the correct color names. If a student makes a mistake, the teacher points to the chart again but doesn't give the answer. So the students keep trying until they figure out the right answers on their own. So through this process, they learn the colors by the solving problem also to themselves. So now for our strategies to make the silent way work, the first one is educate students thoroughly about the method. So teach the students what the silent way is and why it's important. Help them understand how it can help them learn better and become more independent. So situations like at the beginning of the school year, the teacher holds a short meeting where they explain the silent way approach. So they show students how they will use tools like Cuisenaire rods to solve problems and encourage them to ask questions instead just waiting for the answers to the teachers that she or he will give to the students, right? Number 2, emphasize quality rather than quantity. Focus in helping the students truly understand the material instead and trying to cover a lot of topics quickly. So it's better for them to learn a few things well than to rush through everything without grasping it. Okay, so for an instance, instead of finishing a whole chapter in 1 week, the teacher will spend 2 weeks on a single topic, allowing the students to explore in it in a depth and ask questions until they really understand it. Okay? 3, give feedback non-verbally. So the teacher will use a body language, gestures, and facial expressions to give the students feedback. Instead of always speaking, this encourages them to think and figure things out on their own. Like situations when a student makes a mistake while using the Cuisenaire rods, the teacher raises an eyebrow and tilts her head, prompting the students to reconsider their rearrangement instead of saying, what's wrong? Number 4, check in individual with students. So regularly meet with each other's students to see how they are doing. This helps them feel supported and boost their confidence in their own learning process. So like for an instance with this, like put it to a situation, the teacher sets aside time every week to sit with each student for a few minutes. During these meetings, they discuss what the students is working on, answer any questions, and offer encouragement. However, there are some potential problems since the teacher speaks so little to the students. So here, some students might feel like confused or lost, especially those who need more guidance. So also it can be frustrating, especially for the beginners who are not used to figure things out on their own. So the first here is student-directed learning. So students take charge of their own learning. They decide what to focus on and how to find answers instead of just waiting for the teacher to tell them. Number 2, improve problem-solving skills. So students learn to think critically and solve problems by trying things out and figuring out solutions on their own, which helps them in real life too. Number 3, increase engagement. That will be students are more involved and interested in their learning because they get to explore and discover rather than just listen to lectures. Okay, number 4, a positive, safe learning environment. So students feel safe to make mistakes and learn from them. So this encourages them to try new things without fear or being judged. Number 5, it can be supplement further. So this method can be used alongside other teaching methods. It helps students develop a deeper understanding that they can build on later on. Number 6, student-centered work. So here, the focus is on the students, not to the teachers, right? So this means students have more opportunities to express themselves and share their ideas, making the learning more personal and relevant to them. So the silent way method shifts the focus from the teacher to the students, allowing them to control of their learning journey. By using tools like questionnaire rods and charts, students explore concepts through hands-on activities. This method encourages them to make mistakes and learn from them, which builds confidence and problem-solving skills. As students actively participate in learning process, they become more engaged and more motivated, leading to a more meaningful and lasting understanding of the material. So this approach not only helps students learn effectively, but also prepares them for real-world challenges by promoting independence and critical thinking. My dear students, always remember that the silent way approach is a powerful method of teaching that emphasizes students' independence and actively participation in the learning process. By shifting the focus from the teacher to the students, it encourages them to explore, experiment, and learn from their mistakes, fostering critical thinking and problem-solving skills. This method not only increases engagement but also creates a positive and safe learning environment where students feel empowered to take charge of their education. Ultimately, the silent way equips learners with the tools they need to understand language or any subject deeply, ensuring that their knowledge is not only retained but also applicable in real life situations. Through this, my dear students, this approach, students become more confident, autonomous learners ready to face challenges, both inside and outside in the classroom. And now we're done to our definition to our silent way approach. Now may I call teacher Ally will present the disadvantages and advantages, implementation of silent way, impact of the students, materials used in class, and the conclusion with this approach.
Hi class, good morning. I am your teacher. I am teacher Ally, and I would like to thank teacher I for the introduction of the silent way approach. So for a short recap, the Silent Way approach class for teaching language arts is a method where the teacher acts more like a guide and lets the students explore and learn on their own. So instead of giving direct instructions or answers, the teacher uses tools like colors, sounds, and objects to help students figure things out themselves. So this encourages students to be active learners, think critically, and work together, making the learning process more engaging and independent. And for your information, the Silent Way approach for learning has advantages and disadvantages. And the reason why I am here right now is to discuss what are those. Alright, so let's first talk about the advantages of the Silent Way approach. First is it encourages students' independence. So students learn to think and work on their own, developing problem-solving skills. So for example, in a writing class, instead of the teacher providing or giving the prompts, students brainstorm their own ideas and develop stories, fostering creativity. So the Silent Way approach fosters students' independence by allowing them to take charge of their learning. In a writing class, instead of providing specific prompts, the teacher introduces a broad theme, let's say adventure. So students brainstorm their own ideas in groups, develop stories based on their interest, and also engage in peer feedback. So this process encourages creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration, helping the students feel more confident and invested in their writing. And ultimately, they learn valuable skills while expressing their unique voices. The second advantage is it promotes active learning. So students engage directly with the material, which can make learning more memorable. For example, during a poetry lesson, students might create their own poems using various words and themes. These making the experience personal and fun. So how can making a poetry lesson promotes active learning? In a poetry lesson in the Silent Way approach, students actively engage by creating their poems based on the chosen words and themes. So instead of simply listening to the teacher explain poetic technique, they explore language creatively. Word selection. So students might be given a selection of words or phrases and asked to choose those that resonate with them. So this personal connection makes the activity meaningful. Next one is the creation process. So as they write, students experiment with the different poetic forms, rhythms, and styles. So this hands-on experience allows them to apply what they have learned in a practical way. And also sharing and feedback. So after writing, students share their poems with the class, fostering a sense of community. So they receive feedback from peers or from their classmates and enhancing their understanding of poetic techniques and inspiring further creativity. So by engaging directly with the materials in a fun and personal way, so students deepen their learning, making it more memorable and enjoyable. And the very last advantage of the Silent Way is it focuses on understanding. So by figuring things out themselves, students build a deeper understanding of language concepts. For example, when learning about the sentence structure, students analyze sentences and discover how to rearrange them for clarity without direct instructions at all. So in this example, students look at different sentences and try to understand how they work. So instead of just being told by the rules, they break down sentences to see how changing the order of words can make them clearer. So by experimenting and discussing their findings with classmates, they learn why certain structures are better for communication. So this hands-on approach helps them grasp the concepts more deeply. So as they actively engage with the language rather than memorizing the rules, and ultimately, these methods foster a stronger foundation in language skills. Alright, so since we're now done discussing the advantages of the silent way approach, our next stop is the disadvantages of the silent way approach. So what are those? First is initial confusion. So some students may feel lost or frustrated without clear directions from the teacher. For example, a student used to traditional teaching might struggle to participate in discussions where they are expected to find answers on their own. So why this scenario became a disadvantage of the silent way approach? So here's the reason why. First is lack of confidence. So the student or the silent way approach emphasizes students' independence and self-discovery, with the teacher taking a backseat role. So this can leave students like, let's say Alex, feeling lost or confused, especially if they are accustomed to more structured environments where the teacher provides clear instructions and support. Next one is initial frustration. In the silent way approach, students are encouraged to find answers on their own, which can be overwhelming for those who are not yet confident in their skills. So Alex might feel frustrated when faced with the expectation to participate without clear directions or instructions, leading to disengagement. And lastly is variable readiness. Not all students come into the classroom with the same level of readiness for self-directed learning. For someone like Alex, who may rely on more directed instruction, the transition can be particularly challenging, potentially hindering their learning experiences. So in a conclusion, while the silent way approach fosters independence and critical thinking, it can also create a gap for students who need more initial support and guidance. Understanding this disadvantage can help educators or us teachers to find a balance between encouraging student autonomy and providing the necessary scaffolding to ensure all students can thrive in the learning environment. Okay, and the second disadvantage is it really requires skilled teachers. So teachers need to be well trained to effectively guide students without dominating the lesson. For example, if a teacher isn't comfortable with this method, they might end up being too silent or unsure, making the classroom feel unstructured. So imagine a classroom where a teacher is inexperienced with a silent way approach method. So instead of creating an environment conducive to exploration and collaboration, the teacher might become overly silent or hesitant to intervene. So this could lead to several issues. First is lack of direction. Students may feel lost without clear guidance of the teacher. So if the teacher is unsure when to step in or offer help, students might struggle to stay on task or understand key concepts, resulting in confusion and also frustration. Second is unstructured learning environment. Without the teacher's active engagement, the classroom may become chaotic. So some students might dominate discussions while others remain passive, leading to an imbalance where not everyone has the opportunity to participate or learn effectively. Next one is missed learning opportunities. So if the teacher fails to recognize moments where intervention is necessary, such as clarifying misunderstanding or providing constructive feedback, students may miss critical learning moments, hindering their overall progress. So in this scenario, the teacher's discomfort with a silent way approach not only undermines the method's effectiveness, but also creates an unproductive learning environment. So this highlights the importance of thorough training and practice for teachers adopting this approach to ensure they can facilitate learning effectively while empowering their students. Alright, so the next one and also the very last disadvantage of the silent way approach is limited feedback. So students may not get immediate corrections, leading to misunderstandings and language use. So for example, a student practicing pronunciation might continue to mispronounce words without realizing it, making it harder to correct later. So in the silent way approach, the focus is on student independence and also exploration, which can limit the amount of immediate feedback students receive. This is particularly evident in language learning where pronunciation and grammar are crucial. Mispronunciation issues. For instance, consider a student practicing the pronunciation of the word through. If the teacher is intentionally silent, the student may not realize they are pronouncing it incorrectly. For example, saying the word through, which is spelled THRU. Without immediate feedback or correction, the student may continue to use this mispronunciation in conversation. Next is reinforcement of errors. As the student practices speaking with peers or in real-life situations, they reinforce this incorrect mispronunciation or pronunciation. The longer they go without correction, the more ingrained the mistake becomes. So when the teacher finally steps in to provide a feedback, it might be much more difficult to correct the error as the student has already developed a habit around the mispronunciation. Next one is increased anxiety. Additionally, the student may feel increasingly anxious about speaking if they believe their pronunciation is correct, only to discover later that it isn't. So this could lead to lack of confidence in their language abilities, making them less willing to participate in discussions. So this scenario illustrates how limited feedback in the silent way can lead to misunderstandings and challenges in language acquisition, emphasizing the need for a balance between encouraging student independence and also providing timely corrections to facilitate effective learning. So we are all set with the advantages and also the disadvantages of the silent way approach. So now we will discuss the implementation of the silent way. First is start with sounds and colors. So teachers use colors and sound to introduce language concepts, helping students visualize language. So in this approach, teachers introduce language concepts using colored rods and sound charts. So colors help represent different sounds or grammatical structure, making abstract language ideas more tangible. So this visual aid helps students associate colors with specific language elements, facilitating memory retention and also understanding. Next, implementation is facilitate, don't direct. So teachers act as guides, encouraging exploration and peer collaboration. So teachers in the silent way take on a facilitating role rather than a traditional instruction one. So they create an environment where students feel safe to experiment with the language, make mistakes, and learn through exploration. So this encourages learners or students to be more proactive in their language acquisition, fostering critical thinking and also problem-solving skills. And the very last one, or the very last implementation of the silent way, is encourage peer teaching. So students work together, helping each other learn through discussion and explanation. So collaboration is a key element in the silent way. Students often work in pairs or small groups, discussing and explaining the concepts with each other. So this peer teaching not only reinforces their understanding but also build communication skills and confidence. So by teaching one another, students deepen their own learning and create a supportive classroom community. So what are the impact of the silent way approach in students? First is it increases self-confidence. As I've mentioned earlier, it really increases students' confidence. So students gain confidence as they learn to express their ideas and opinions without fear of being corrected immediately. So the silent way allows students to express their thoughts and also opinions freely, creating a supportive environment where they are not immediately corrected. So this autonomy encourages them to take risks with the language, leading to increased self-assurance in their speaking and also comprehension abilities. Second is improves collaboration skills. Working together fosters communication and teamwork among students. By working together in pair or even groups, students enhance their communication and teamwork skills. So collaborating on language tasks encourages them to share ideas, negotiate meaning, and provide constructive feedback, which fosters a sense of community and mutual support in the learning process. And lastly is enhances critical thinking. So students develop stronger analytical skills by figuring out language rules and concepts on their own. So as students engage in figuring out language rules and concepts independently, they develop stronger analytical skills. So this process encourages them to think critically about the language, enabling them to make connections and apply what they have learned in the new context, which deepens their understanding and mastery of the language. So now we will talk about the materials used in class. First is color charts. So these represent different parts of speech or vocabulary words, making abstract concepts more concrete. For example, in a language lesson, students used colored cards to build sentences, helping them visualize sentence structure. Next one is sound charts. Visual aids that display sounds to aid pronunciation and phonics. Example, a teacher uses a sound chart to help students practice difficult sounds in a new language, encouraging correct pronunciation through repetition. And the last one, or the last materials used for the silent way approach is Casimir rods. While often used for math, these can also illustrate concepts in language arts like sentence length or syllable count. For example, students use rods to create sentences or varying lengths, helping them understand how to vary sentence structure in their writing. So, in conclusion, the silent way approach to teaching language arts emphasizes students' independence, active learning, and also peer collaboration. While it has challenges such as potential initial confusion and the need for skilled teachers, the benefit like increased confidence and critical thinking often make it worthwhile. So by using engaging materials and encouraging exploration, this method can create a dynamic classroom environment where students take ownership of their learning. So overall, the silent way approach can lead to meaningful language development that prepares students for real-world communication and also expression. Okay, so that's our discussion for today, class. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, this is your teacher, Teacher Ally, and have a great day. Bye-bye.